In the previous video, I went and put a ceiling in, you can see, and we reset the heights of our interior walls so they went up to the ceiling. And that may not how they eventually end up, but that'll represent well what it is we're trying to do conceptually here. The next thing I want to do is put a roof in here. And so not that I have to know exactly what type of roof, but I predetermined in programming that that probably the most logical roof structure type was CMU on bar joist, and then was steel deck. And a roof with steel deck and bar joist normally does not have concrete that's used when you need the hold the loads of a floor. So the steel deck and concrete are put together. But in this case, since this is just a roof, we'll just use a steel deck and then have insulation on top. This is sheathing, some kind of air moisture barrier, rigid insulation, some sheathing, and then some other membrane on top of that. So here we have, so this is the roof that we're going to put in, is this kind of element right here down to the top of the bar joist. I'm not going to bother with the bar joist right at this moment because if you wanted to, you could go ahead and put them in, but I'm just going to put a roof in. And so let's do that. I'm going to count that as 8 inches. Okay, and where I get the 8 inches is this deck is probably about 2 inches according to Alan and Ano, and the polystyrene needs to be about 30 R30, I think, to meet code, and therefore an 5 R per inch, and so 5 into 30 is 6. So this is 6 inches, deck is 2 inches. So I'm just going to make a total. So I'm going to go in architecture. We're going to go to roofs. We need to be working from a two-dimensional drawing. It's saying, do you want to go to the ceiling? I'm going to go to the finished floor roof since this is kind of the finish. And so we'll go up here to the finished floor. And to set that, and let's go ahead and move to that 2D view. We could actually draw it inside there, but that's okay. So anyway, so we're going to make a generic, an 8-inch generic. So I'm just going to select this, edit type, duplicate it, give it 8 inches. Oops, 8 inches. And then I'll change the here to 8 inches. It doesn't have a material on it at this point, which is fine since we don't have components in the assembly. So we'll call that 8 inch. It's just generic right now. And then I can do a rectangle, and I'm just going to go, it's going to go into the inside because I've decided to put a parapet on this roof. So I'm going to do this real quick and then bring my photo back up. So it's going to have a parapet, as we can see right here. It's going to extend, the parapet's going to extend beyond the roof boundary right here, right? And so we'll put the parapet here in a minute. I'll go ahead and lock it to the interior of these walls. And then these little slopes mean that there's a slope to this from this line going back in this direction, another slope in this direction, If I did it right, if I left those slopes in there, we would get a pyramid-shaped roof. So what I'm going to do is go back, modify these lines, and not define slope. Okay, this line's not going to define slope. For right now, this is not going to define slope. And this one is not going to define slope. As well as, I'm going to make this virtually a flat roof. Technically, it would never be a flat roof. You can't build one. Most building codes won't allow you to build a perfectly flat roof because there's no drainage. So if you want good drainage, you need about 1/4 of an inch per foot slope. But for conceptual purposes here, I'm just going to, whoops, let's go back. I did that too quick. define. I'm not going to have that define a slope. And so we've got it 8 inches. I think we're ready to go. If we go back to our 3D view, we're going to see we got an 8 inch. Okay, here. That's really not the top of the roof. If we look in section, let's go back to our east-west section here. We'll see our roof, our finished roof is actually up here, and this says finished roof. So I'm going to change this to, so I'm just going to say joist bearing, and this yes. So the next thing I need to do is add the top of the parapet. If this is where the joists are going to bear, and this is going to go up 8 inches here, this should probably be at least 3 courses would be 24 inches, probably 4 courses, which would be 32 inches. So if we add 32 inches to that, that's going to be 16 feet, right? So I'm just going to draw me another level in here, so I'll have a level that represents the top of the parapet. Oh, it's outside of, I created an element that's not visible because of my crop view. Okay, there we go. And so this should be actually 16 foot in 8 inches, which would be 32 inches to that. And we're going to call this top of parapet. Top of parapet. And then we'll break this so I can move it up here and be able to see this a little bit better. Okay. I just started mumbling to myself again, and I was warned that that makes it hard to hear what's going on. So I'll stop mumbling and speak and enunciate more effectively. So we've got where we want the parapet walls to go to. If we go back to 3D, we'll see right here, this wall. Okay, this is the front. And so what we want to do is this, we're going to use a system where the roof slopes to the back, and then there would be a gutter back here, and there would be no parapet on the back here. Well, I'll just show you. So we're going to move this up, this wall here, actually all 3 of those walls. Let's flip around here. I'm just going to hold down the control key and grab them all at one time. So now the base constraint is the first floor, but the top constraint was the joist bearing. We're going to make that now the top of the parapet, which is right there now. We're going to apply that, and it's going to lift all those walls up to that point. Let's go back around here, and we don't want it to cut off right there. So what we're going to do is pull that wall out. Probably be easier to do by going to the finished. Well, let's go to the joist bearing again. And I'm just going to pull that wall out and then bring it back and snap it right there. And then do the same thing here. Bring it out, snap it back there. Whoops. You can get that right on there. Okay, if I go back to my 3D view now that's correct, except for my roof doesn't extend out to the outside wall, because the water is going to come, flow down into a gutter, and then the gutter is going to have a series of downspouts on it to carry the water off. So let's go back to the, I don't like that name. I'm going to call this top of wall. Yeah, that's a better name. Okay, so with that done, now let's edit this, and I'm gonna go top of wall to edit it, and go up here, edit footprint, and I'm gonna take this line and unlock it and move it out so it snaps to the back of that wall, and then say check, and then let's go back to our 3D, And now that looks right. So now we have our roof system in there. There's a variety of different ways. You're going to need to talk with me if you want me to show you how to, you know, do your specific roof. I'm just kind of going through the basics, in the very, very basics in here. Okay, so now we've got our roof, we got our ceiling. The next we're going to go back in and put some windows and doors and openings